The way I actually broke into print was by writing reviews. So I want to mention some review sources, just some of the more popular ones. There are many, many more than what I'll mention. So Library Journal is a journal that's probably familiar to many of you. In my opinion, it's aimed more at public libraries than it is at other types. But they publish every year over 1,000 reviews of books, audio, video, DVDs, online databases, CD-ROMs, magazines, websites, and more. A sister publication, which is the one I started with, is School Library Journal. They review books, audios, videos, DVDs, CD-ROMs, and websites. As you might guess, only about half of that list actually existed when I started reviewing for them. They had books, audios, and videos. Either you were a book or you were AV. I started out by writing media reviews for them. I still remember my first review back in about 1980. It was a set of 100 black and white photographs of Mexico, designed in the publisher's mind to teach about the people and about the culture. I didn't give them a very good review. Probably if I were to review that same item today, I would be a little less harsh. But as a new reviewer, I wanted to criticize every last thing. One of the things I've learned over the years, don't quite be so harsh, because your book might be reviewed someday. And some of my, not terribly recent, but some of my more recent reviews were a little bit harsh with me. And I didn't appreciate it. I think I would be a little kinder and gentler if I were still writing reviews today. School Library Journal is aimed, as the name says, more at schools, but also of those working with young adult programs in public libraries and other types of libraries. Another review source, this one published by the American Library Association, is Booklist. Every year they publish nearly 4,000 reviews, of nearly 4,000 books for adults, more than 2,500 titles for children, more than 500 reference books and electronic reference tools, and 1,000 other audiovisual materials. They also publish, this will come in a little bit later, a wide variety of feature articles, including author interviews, bibliographies, book-related essays by well-known writers, and a selection of columns. Of these, the one that I'm most familiar with currently is Choice, because Choice publishes reviews of current materials, recently published materials for academic libraries. And of course, most recently I've worked in academic libraries. They publish significant current books and electronic media of interest to those in higher education, particularly at the undergraduate levels. Now, I said books, of course I mean they publish the reviews thereof. One thing that Choice used to say, I don't know if they still say it or not, but they publish only positive reviews. If something was a don't buy, then they would not publish the review of it. They've strayed from that a bit, I have observed. But this was one of the reasons in the academic library we chose to circulate Choice to our faculty members rather than some of the other journals, such as the nameless one that I just mentioned, because they do publish negative reviews, and we discovered that our faculty members, if they saw something in print, they didn't always bother to see that that was a negative review. They saw it, it sounded interesting, they read it. And that's not to say, of course, that every review is 100% right. But for our purposes, we chose to use Choice to circulate to them, because generally they published only affirmative reviews. If you're not aware, Choice also comes in two other formats. I believe it still comes on 4x6 cards that we could break up by academic area and circulate to each academic division, and it's available online. We could actually have the reviews pushed out to the faculty members. So I'm getting a little bit off the subject of writing a review, but I'm telling you how we've used this in academia. We found it a very, very useful source. Another review source is TER, Technology Electronic Reviews, also published by ALA, published by LIDA. LIDA is one of the divisions of ALA, the Library Information and Technology Association. TER is an irregular electronic serial. It is not produced to meet a deadline, which I point out to you as you're writing reviews. They can give you a specific deadline, I'm sure, for their next issue, but it's not like it comes out every month or every 2 months. It is irregular. Therefore, submissions are accepted on an ongoing basis. Its primary purpose is to provide reviews of and pointers to a variety of print and electronic resources about information technology. So if that's the area you're writing in, you might be interested in writing reviews for them. Original research should not be submitted. We'll talk a little bit later about some other journals that you might use if you're doing original research. Multiple reviews of the same title may be published. That's a little bit unusual in the area of publication, but it does happen with TER. So if you want to review a source, you don't need to be discouraged because somebody else has already reviewed it. They do publish multiple reviews from time to time. And they also publish author and reader comments from time to time. Another good way to break into print, reader comments. You don't have to write a full review, but you can write reader comments. And we'll pick up that topic again in just a couple of minutes. This is here because this is an email I received last week as I was putting this together. And I kind of broke it up into this format because it was a lot of fine print and didn't want to put it up here. But let me read you the bulk of it. The editors of TER are pleased to announce a new list of books available to qualified reviewers. And at the end of this email was a list of a whole bunch of books. I didn't reproduce it here. Please rank your selections in decreasing order of preference. In other words, your number one choice at the top. And reviews will be assigned on a first-come, first-served basis. In about a week, the first round of assignments will be made, and there may be a second round if any books remain unreviewed. Current available books are listed below. Well, they were in the email, but not here. Review due date. In order to plan the publication schedule, TER requests reviewers complete their review within 2 months of receiving the book by post. More specific information for reviewers is available at, and there's the URL. Please put TER in the subject line of your email to Michael Yunkin, who is the TER Reviewer Relations Editor. I put this in here because it came across at a very good time, but this is one way you can break into print. Get on some listservs if you're not already, and watch for this sort of thing. I actually have a folder in my email, 2 folders that I'll pass along. One's a free tip because it has nothing to do with this topic, just a folder I call CAL. And if I see an upcoming conference, an upcoming workshop that I think might be of interest to me or to a colleague, I stick the email into that folder. The other is called calls, CALLS. If I see a call for a presentation, a call for an article, a call for a book that I think I might want to write or I might want to present, or a colleague might be interested in, even if I don't have anybody in mind in that particular time, I stick it in there because who knows, but tomorrow or next week I may be talking to somebody who says, I'm doing research on this and this and this. I wonder where I can get it published. I just happen to have it tucked away in a folder somewhere, sort of my electronic vertical file. So watch for calls on your listservs. They are out there, they are to be found. Just keep your eyes open for them. Okay, Kirkus Reviews, a journal that has really changed since I was familiar with them a few years back. I won't say how many, but it used to be about a 20-page mimeographed piece of paper printed on both sides and stapled together. Had a green bar across the top. Any of you remember that? Oh, I'm older than, well, older than all of you, I guess. Anyway, it used to be just a mimeographed and mailed thing. Now, of course, it's come out in 4 colors. But Kirkus Reviews has been around since 1933, published 24 times annually, published reviews, 3 to 4 months pre-publication. They try to get their reviews out before the item is actually published. Kirkus is known for publishing reviews that are what we call a bit more chatty. They're more lengthy. If you go to Choice, Library Journal, School Library Journal, all you get is a paragraph or 2. They actually give you the guidelines of how many words it can be maximum. And while they exceed that occasionally, it generally fits that brief, a couple of paragraphs format. A Kirkus review can go on for a couple of pages. They are far more chatty. Kirkus Reviews are aimed, again, more at public libraries than they would be at academic libraries. They publish approximately 5,000 titles per year, that is, reviews thereof, fiction, mysteries, sci-fi, translations, nonfiction, and children books. Again, things that are not particularly popular in the academic library area, but more the public library area and perhaps school libraries. The reviews, according to them, that's not my quote but theirs, are reliable, authoritative, written by specialists selected for their knowledge and expertise in a particular field. They're written by Kirkus staff plus more than 100 freelance writers. This is a good point to mention then as you're contacting some of these journals and their review editors, let them know what your areas of expertise are. Are you interested in sci-fi? Are you interested in romance? Are you interested in historical fiction? You're interested in library technology? You're interested in library administration? What is your area? What is your forte? And then they will try to send materials to you that are in that particular subject area. So try to think to yourself what your areas of expertise, your areas of interest are, and as you communicate with these review editors, let them know what your areas are. Another area for reviewing doesn't usually pay very much. I used to get $10, which meant that my time was probably $1 an hour, because you'd have to read the book and then you'd have to write the review. I'd have to drive it to the newspaper office. But it was fun. Why was it fun? Because I got a lot of Isabel Hollins and other fiction books that I enjoyed reading, and then I could either put them in my library or donate them to the local public library. Occasionally I get one that I kept, because they were given to me. I could do what I wanted with the copy. They were brand new books, usually released to the newspaper before they were at your local bookstore. But it's a good way. And your local newspapers, depending on the size of the city you're in, are sometimes not too picky. Sometimes they just don't have a great number of reviewers. Now, if you're trying to write for the New York Times book review, I think they're going to be a little bit more selective, because they have a lot of people that would write for them. I do not know what they pay, but I would anticipate that they pay more than $10 per review, probably considerably more. But it's a good way, and it's a fun way. And really your pay is, in most cases, keeping the book, not the $10 you would get. Another way to break into print is letters to the editor. And it could be letters to the editor of your local newspaper, letters to the editor of American Libraries, letters to the editor of School Library Journal, whatever it happens to be. I applied for a position once, not a full-time position, but a part-time position as a columnist for American Libraries. And I wrote on my bio that I had been published in American Libraries. And of course they went through their indexes and they went through everything, and they said to me at the interview, "We can't find anywhere that you were published in American Libraries." I said, "No, it was a letter to the editor," and I think I gave them the approximate date. Well, they actually thought that was pretty clever. I had been published in American Libraries. It was a letter to the editor. Don't be dishonest about it, but they certainly thought my letter was good enough for publication. There are many, many letters they get that they don't publish. So the fact that they chose my letter got me into print, and most editors will respect that. Now, don't stretch that and tell them that you were a monthly columnist for 25 years. A letter to the editor is just that. But they did choose your letter over many others that they received. Okay, op-ed pieces, opinion editorial pieces that are in many, many newspapers and many magazines, sometimes in the journals. If you have a strong opinion on something, you want to write about an issue, you can write that and submit that to them for publication. There are many issues that many of us feel strongly about, and there may be a particular one that's very, very timely in your area or in the profession. You want to write about it and submit that piece. Okay, let's look then at journals. Thinking now of writing articles, not so much the reviews. Let's give a definition first. What is a refereed journal? Sometimes the term you will hear used is peer-reviewed, P-E-E-R. Pretty much the same thing. Some of you are going to cringe. For this definition, I went to the Wikipedia. I use the Wikipedia occasionally. I thought that it was a pretty good definition. But let me tell you basically what my definition is, and then we'll look at theirs. But my definition of a peer-reviewed journal is that your article, your submission has been reviewed by your peers, by your colleagues, by experts in the field, and they have given the value of their professionalism, use that to evaluate your writings, to determine whether or not it's fit for publication. The Wikipedia definition says that it is the process of subjecting an author's scholarly work or ideas to the scrutiny of experts in the field. It is used primarily by publishers to select and to screen submitted manuscripts, and by funding agencies to decide the awarding of monies for research. So sometimes a grant or an application for a grant might be peer-reviewed. If you're applying for a grant in technology and library science, they might submit that grant application to a group of specialists in that area to decide whether or not you get the grant. Is your project worthy of funding? The process is aimed at getting authors to meet the standards of their discipline and of science generally. Publications and awards that have not undergone peer review are likely to be regarded with suspicion by scholars and professionals in many fields. In other words, if you want to give yourself some merit as having published, you want to do it in a journal that is peer reviewed. That's going to carry a lot more weight with your peers. It's going to carry a lot more weight if you're applying for a job than if you write for some journal that is not peer reviewed. And I'm not going to give you a list today of which journals are and which journals aren't. Usually the journal itself would tell you somewhere within the journal whether or not it is peer reviewed. Okay, places you can get articles published. Probably the journal that most of us are familiar with, one of the ALA publications, is American Libraries. American Libraries features articles on professional concerns and developments, along with news of the association, library-related legislation, and libraries around the country and the world. Expression of diverse viewpoints and critical interpretation of professional issues make the magazine the premier forum for the exchange of ideas. Again, the quote is from them. That's not my quote. I'm not giving them free publicity here, but that's directly from their website. A note about their style, again, taken from their website to show you how much information is available out there. If you think, I'd like to write for American Libraries, you can get on their website, look all of this up to find out if what you're thinking is in line with what they're thinking. So their style, they say, is informal but informative. A factual article must be inviting and readable, with all statements backed by responsible research and interviews. They use the Chicago Manual of Style, 15th edition. So if you're going to write for them, you better either have the Chicago Manual 15th edition or be able to get a hold of it and be willing to move your article into that style. May be used in styling articles for publications. Footnotes are not used, but a few references are allowed in the text. The format. Electronic submissions in Word format are preferred. So even if you don't use Word, there are other word processing programs that will allow you to save your writing in Word format. I would suggest you do that before you submit it to them, and they give you the email address here. Hard copies are acceptable and should be double-spaced, letter or near letter quality on plain bond. That means you don't use a 9-pin dot matrix printer with a worn-out ribbon. One copy suffices. Manuscripts must be accompanied by a self-addressed envelope bearing sufficient postage for return. The famous SASE, self-addressed stamped envelope. So you go to the post office, you have them weigh your manuscript, and put the proper amount of postage on both of those envelopes so it can be returned to you. I suggest that you do request for the article to be returned just to avoid problems in the future. If it is returned to you, you know that they're not going to publish it. But I think it would be embarrassing, at the very least, for you to say, after you get a rejection from them but not the article, to turn around and submit it to some other magazine, and they're just about ready to print it or have printed it, and some editor at the first publication sees that article lying around because it hasn't been returned to you. They pick it up, this editor likes it, and they decide to go ahead and publish it at the same time it's coming out somewhere else. Could be embarrassing and could lead to problems. So I would suggest that it be returned to you. Another ALA publication, College and Research Libraries. This is published by ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries, one of the ALA divisions. It includes articles in all fields of interest and concern to academic and research libraries. Well-written manuscripts on all aspects of academic research, academic and research librarianship will be considered. There are two publications with similar titles. We'll see the other one in just a moment. But College and Research Libraries is the more scholarly of the two. If you're doing original research, if you're doing something that I would call heavy research in the field of academic or research librarianship, this would be the one of the two journals that you would want to submit it to. It is very scholarly in nature. A lot of statistics are included in their articles. Yes, many times the articles take the nature of, this is how we did a certain project at this particular library, but they back it up with good hard data. We had this many participants, these were the results, and then they summarize their data. So this is a very scholarly publication. And I'm reasonably sure that this is one that is peer-reviewed, by the way. So manuscripts may include research studies, case studies, descriptive narratives of successful and unsuccessful ventures. Keep that in mind. Thoughtful discussions of issues in librarianship and other suitable subjects. And again, it says they invite submissions relevant to their goals stated in the ACRL Strategic Plan 2020, and it was published in 2004. Again, all of this is on the website. Another publication which is often confused because the titles are so similar from the ACRL is College and Research Libraries News. Most of the time in print you'll see this referred to as C&RL News. This is the more informal of the two publications. They publish articles, reports, and essays written by practitioners addressing philosophy and techniques of day-to-day management of academic library services and collections. See why I didn't memorize all that? It provides current information relating to issues, activities, and personalities of the higher education and academic and research library field. This was one of the journals that I had an article published in a number of years ago. My particular article at that time was using a spreadsheet to move a journal collection. And my friends still rib me to this day. They think of a paper spreadsheet, using it to move the journals. The point of the article, of course, was when you're moving a journal collection or you're shifting it because you need to leave room for growth or whatever the reason happens to be, you need to build in space for growth. And journals don't grow the same way books grow. You know, books, you basically leave space scattered throughout the stacks because you don't always know which part of your collection is going to grow the most. But journals you can predict. If you have a canceled journal or one that's no longer being published, you know that that journal is not going to grow, so you don't have to leave any room at the end to add extra volumes. If it's a journal that publishes a volume that's that thick every year, you need to leave a lot more room for that journal to grow than you would for one that publishes a volume that's that thick every year. So you can use a spreadsheet to calculate all this, and that was the thrust of the article. It was very practical, very hands-on, was not scholarly. It was, this is how I did it, and this is how you can do it. So that's the frame of reference I use when I think of C&RL News. More practical items. This is how we did it. This is how you can do it. Wasn't a lot of scholarly research. It was just what I had learned with my personal experience. Information literacy, scholarly communication, technology, professional education, preservation, government actions that affect libraries, acquisitions, grants to libraries, product updates, and the business of the association, that is of ACRL, are the types of things that are covered. This is the official news magazine and publication of record for ACRL. So let me ask you, in your library classes, have you talked about what publication of record means?